Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. We're recording on the back of Hibs Derby defeat, which has brought a lot of questions to the front again that maybe never went away. I'm joined by Liam, Ryan, and Greg. Greg, how you doing, mate?
Angry. Oh, I'm angry.
Still angry.
Still angry.
Liam, angry.
I love that we were going to try and make this an upbeat episode of fixing the problems, and you start lead way. We're recording after a Derby day defeat, and I'm like, mate, it was like 3 or 4 days ago. Let's move on.
Ryan, how you doing?
All right, man. All things considered, I'm all right.
Better dress code today than on Monday, Greg, would you say?
Slightly. I mean, Monday was an absolute abomination, to be honest. An absolute shambles. You got to remember, no everybody
but I
gets
feel-
weeks off at Christmas. It's your job. I feel like I need to let it go, though. But that was, sorry, Ryan. But I forgive you. Just can't come to football dressed like that, man. That was bad.
Right.
Coming in nude if I want to. Rather
So,
that.
What
I'm not
we're,
going to believe you were dressed in.
Right, what we're going to do tonight, instead of sitting dissecting the game on Monday, because like Liam just pointed out, by the time people are listening to this, it'll be Friday, and we'd rather look ahead than back. We're going to go straight into listener questions. We sort of put the request for questions out in a way that it was to say we won't be talking about the game, etc., and that we'll be looking into what needs to change in the coming weeks and months to sort of get the club back on track, I guess. So let's just start right off the bat with Jeff Ashton. Quite a wide subject. The constant denominator since the Maffei sacking window has been recruitment. More misses than hits. The strategy re-signing prospects and selling them on is sound if the first team is performing. It's putting the cart before the horse, basically. Lee Johnson, his comments after a game smacked of sack me or back me. That's fine until you review his comments about some of the signings at the start to what he says now. They don't match up, so either he was wrong, which would be worrying, lying, worrying, or towing the party line, also worrying. So, where to start? We'll go.
Can I just come in on the Lee Johnson after game comments and Kyle McGuinness was on the telly the night, saying that there was discussions with players had and they all knew where they stood. So although it probably sounds a lot worse than it is, it's not. I think it is also worrying that he didn't go in the change room after the game. Obviously, man or garden gnome, you pick. And was out the night before a derby. He sets the standards as a manager. I think he's probably acting like someone who wants to be sacked, if I'm honest. Sorry to dive in straight away.
No, that's straight off the bat.
I met Jeff in the toilet at the Roseburn. We're doing a piss at the same time. We had a good weather. We were doing a piss at the same time in the Roseburn. That was, in true Jeff Ashton style, that was a statement, wasn't it? Not a question.
Absolutely. He did say it was
So you got us off to a good
Okay.
start there, you, my listeners' questions.
No,
The
no.
first statement.
To be fair, his opening sentence was, "This is a very wide subject." It's pretty much the subject of the podcast.
I just don't see. I don't see how you come back for slating the players like that. If he does not get a reaction out of those players against Motherwell, having publicly slated them a few times now, what cards has he got left to play?
Yeah, it does. And as you know, I certainly don't think we're at Butcher stage, but Butcher done this and then didn't get rid of the players. And ultimately, you've seen what happened after that. Again, a lot of that you're led to believe through various interviews that Kevin Thompson's of the world have done. So again, you don't know. But anyone's not going to react to that well, are they?
Butcher told players that were out of contract at the end of the season, months before that they were no longer required and not needed, and then subsequently needed them to save us from relegation. That's why Butcher goes down as probably the worst Hibs manager. No, not probably. The worst Hibs manager of my lifetime.
Yeah.
Lee Johnson is using some very similar tactics. And anyone who disputes that or wants to defend Lee Johnson, I'm happy to have a conversation with him. But the tactics are the same. It's a toxic culture.
You think Lee Johnson tries to be a lot like old school, but with just a little bit more sort of media savvy words?
Doesn't have the gravitas to do it. Doesn't have the gravitas to do it.
Lee Johnson says an awful lot without actually really saying much. Like he just talks shite all the time. And now he's started to
And well,
tirade against the players. And it's like, well, you have to pick who you want to be. Like, this isn't going to be like Lennon when he slated Canberra and it transpired that he was actually correct. This is him just trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do, because nobody really knows what he's trying to do in a tactical sense, and now he's just gone after the players. So
obviously, that does cover sort of what Jeff said about Lee Johnson there quite well. But at the end there, Ryan, he did say about he was either wrong, lying, or toeing the party line, and put worry in obviously after each free. But which one of them would be the most worrying? For me, it would be probably toeing the party line. Like, I think you can accept a manager getting a player wrong, you know, like thinking he was of quality when he comes in. But if it is that case of just saying, "Oh yeah, I wanted him," like what's the point? He doesn't need to say that stuff.
It would be kind of, or it would feel like he was pulling the wool over everybody's eyes at the time, just to kind of sell it to us like the next big thing, that it was going to solve problems that were existing at the time. And if he was capable of doing that then, and he stays in the job, who's to say he won't do it again? You know, no fan really wants to be lied to. You want your club to be honest to you, whether that's at management level, players, or the board. So I think that's probably why a lot of us do feel kind of disengaged at the minute, because you don't know what's true and what's false at the minute when there's things coming out. You know, Lee Johnson's saying like he didn't go back into the dressing room after the game. I mean, like, why? I think there's an awful lot of shunning responsibility when it comes to him, to be honest with you. He's done it several times. He's slated the players. He's never ever held his hands up and said, look, I got it wrong. I think he might have done it against Celtic away. Other than that, we've taken some pretty bad beatings, maybe not in the scoreline, but things like 2-0 at home to Ross County, 3-0 in a derby away at Tynecastle. He's never held his hands up. Never held his hands up for Saturday, for Monday there. And a lot of his tactics were way off, like way off. He spoke in the post-match about trying to get closer to Snodgrass in the second half. I pointed out to both you and Greg, he had about 20 yards radius round about him on numerous occasions. If that's not tactical, what is it?
Yeah. See, just in the terms of the type of player that the club are bringing in currently, and Jeff saying it's pulling the cart before the horse, putting the cart before the horse. What is that another conversation we were having this time last January?
Well, why are we not signing ready-made players? I mean, there's so much put on. 2-3 years they'll be good.
Can Hibs sign a ready-made player?
We have signed ready-made. We signed Marshall. We signed McGeady. We signed Chebraya. Those guys were guys that were signed to come and play in the first team. Like Marshall's the only one who has so far. But I don't buy the argument that we've not signed ready-made players. McCurdy's in his prime age as well. He should be ready-made. Right? But he's not. To me, I mean, to what Ryan says about Lee Johnson, the lack of accountability, did the recruitment team make him start Will Fish at right back and Harry McCurdy on the wing on Saturday? Did they? No. And did he hook them at half time? And who signed those two players? Lee Johnson signed those two players. That for me is that's the death knell for him. Yeah, we signed. This argument. We're only signing youngsters. Yeah, we signed a lot of youngsters, but no, that's not the only players we've signed. And the ones he signed, he doesn't play. Well, he doesn't think they're good enough.
See, for me, like I get what Liam's saying, but I think that we need more experience, if I'm honest, because clearly what we've got isn't good enough.
More experience, to replace the experienced players that they've already.
Clearly, otherwise these players just aren't simply good enough and are too naive to play the game in Scotland.
Because you're looking at the team, let's say the team from Monday. Marshall, Cadden, Hanlon, Stevenson and Rocky. So Rocky's the least inexperienced there, but he still played first team football at the club for
probably the best of the fucking
best part of a year. And then sorry, Cadden wasn't at right back, was he? Sorry, he was in midfield. Will Fish was at right back. In midfield.
By the way, can I ask another question? Why has Will Fish been started in his first start for the football club at the Hearts away?
I was having a think about this today, right?
So,
Right
so
back.
why would you not just look? I don't necessarily think Cadden's that great at right back, but why not just play him there
do you not
instead
think?
of arsing about with a young laddie who? And I'm not trying to make excuses for
I
his
was going to say
mistake
there's no
because
excuse for
there
the
is no
goal.
excuse for it. But
Which mistake? Because he made 3 at the same time, bud.
yeah, right, Ryan. Let's just share yourself in. And you know what? He started McCurdy twice as well. He started him at Parkhead and at Tynecastle with not really a lot of minutes in between. So, what was he expecting on Monday?
I don't know if
Is he expecting players who aren't good enough to step up and go and win the game, or what is he expecting here?
I don't know if I would be that critical. I
Oh,
think
come on, Ewan.
of
He-
no,
he-
just of the in small, specifically about the Fish being at right back, because Cadden's no been the answer this year at right back. So
No, but he's
how
played at
long?
this level at
But
right back.
but at the same time, Greg, if he's not played at centre back in that at this level, so if he came in and played centre back and made the same mistake, we probably wouldn't be criticising him for playing him at centre back. Like so, Fish it didn't work. Fish went into a shell after his mistake, and it was very early in the game. But I don't know if that's on Johnson. As would the McCarthy one, I
Well,
don't get at all. He's
well,
played that
obviously, Fish's
position.
mistake isn't on Johnson. However, why are you giving him his first start in a derby? That's for me. That's poor. You literally chucking the boy right in the lion's den with no experience of the game before. And I get that some players won't, but Cadden's played at this level at right back, at whatever other position he's played. And look, he's okay. He got ripped for arse paper against Celtic. He's probably my favourite player at right back, but why not just play him there?
Yeah. Right. Anyway,
Marshall doesn't cover himself in glory for the first goal either, and neither does Joe Newell.
certainly doesn't for the third one either. Right. Let's move on to the next question. A little bit more positive, I guess. Michael Harley, same question. What is the best team? Also, could McGeady play the role Snodgrass does for Hearts? I think in terms of experience in the team, but not as a
Positionally,
centre midfielder. No.
Nah, he's not
Too
got the
deep.
dig to play there. He's not got the dig to play there. I
Snodgrass
wouldn't want him
plays quite
anywhere near
deep.
that position.
You're better probably play McGeady in a free role behind the front two where he can pop up in pockets of space. I thought he was very effective when he came on.
Yeah, I think that was. I think Greg, I agree with that. I thought it was good when he came on, but he did spend a lot of time central, as opposed to on the side.
Yeah, he was good because Cadden was making runs beyond him, inside him and outside him. They linked up well.
I think
McGeady's
Cadden
not
into
going
right
to be.
back.
McGeady's never going to be any good with static players around him because he's at an age now where he can't move enough himself. He needs runners around him. But I thought he was good. If you're looking for a positive, there's no many, but he was one on Monday.
Yeah. Best team, probably something we'll come on to when we look at towards Motherwell. But right now, I think between us would be struggling to pinpoint the word best on an 11 that we can piece together.
One that Lee Johnson's no picked.
Yeah.
Right, next question, Alligator. Because of the decline in the club since Gordon arrived, people forget we've been underachieving for at least the last 20 years. Cup win, granted, was great, but all it did was cover the cracks. Club needs a full overhaul, which will take years. Would the fans accept this? Probably not.
Well, the cup certainly did cover the cracks because for me, Alan Stubbs was on his way out. Ultimately, did end up leaving anyway, but he failed to get us promotion.
Would you say that generally the club had been on the up since that, though, to when Gordon?
Under Lennon, yes.
Like
since that sort of team disbanded, we've been poor.
Because obviously Gordon bought the club the summer of Hecky's pre-season, is that right?
Yeah.
So, that period there, it's sort of continually been okay. It's been a poorish end to that season, obviously, but we were still in the top six, and I think had the players that he'd lost at the end of the season before, I think, on the face of it, it was probably a decent enough season to finish fifth, and then you were expecting to kick on a game, weren't you? Really, and then that season struggled since then. But is it fair to say the club's declining under the ownership of the Ron Gordon there?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we're in a bit of a malaise at the moment. I'm not sure we're declining under his ownership. It probably feels like it because the results over the last period of time have been really poor, and I think there's a lot of questions that need answered. And I think we're talking about some of them, but I don't see an overall decline in the football club. I just see a lot of very worrying signs that might lead to a decline.
And Ryan, when we talk about the last 20 years, is this just Hibs? You know, we talk about we should be expecting more, we should be expecting top four. Ron Gordon talks about expecting top four, but in our lifetimes, we've finished top four a handful of times.
You could say in the last 20 years it is just Hibs, but that doesn't mean to say that it's unrealistic for us to want anything other than that, or to think that it is possible for us, given, as I've said countless times, size of the club, stadium, training facilities, wage budget, whatever. As for decline, I would say I see more like stagnation than anything else. You know, you got a new owner coming in with bright ideas, funds, but we just kind of haven't really progressed to where we were led to believe we would. But I do not think it's unrealistic for us to want better.
Okay. Sean Steele, a total different subject. What was the first player's name you got on the back of your top? I was trying to, when I seen the question come in, I was trying to have a think, and
I didn't get players' names on the back of my top when I was a kid.
I think
Likewise, never.
I was going to say I think it was Gary O'Connor, and it was a week before he went to fucking Moscow. Literally, I got it on my birthday.
The 6'2" top, I just got number 4 on the back. That was that. I didn't get a name.
Nah. Never been a one for names on the back of my top, to be honest.
Sorry about that, Sean, but let us know who
Well, if I was about the first name on the back of a top, it was actually Tam McManus, which is really bad.
Oh no.
Correct.
Liam, have I made this up? I thought maybe Darren Jackson, or was that maybe just your childhood hero or something?
He was kind of my first.
Right.
Darren Jackson and Kevin Harper were my two first kind of Hibs heroes growing up. I did also have a real soft spot for Tony Rougier as well. I know he was kind of like a bit of a laughable, deridable figure, but I can't remember getting any names in the back of the tops as a kid. There's someone screaming out to me that I maybe got Paco Luna on the back of a top, but I think someone got it for me rather than I chose it.
Right.
Do you remember the purple? Do you remember the purple away?
With the
with the sort of funny collar on it.
Did it have the band right in the middle?
I always call it the Paul Fennick top. But I've got a funny feeling I maybe got Luna 20. I don't know if he was 27 or Luna 7, maybe. I don't know.
I'll just tell you, I had that top and it did have a name on the back of it actually, but for the life of me, fuck knows who it was.
That was the one I got Tam McManus on the back of. It was like a silky feel.
I remember. I don't know if it'd been bought for my fucking dad or something. I just remember it being fucking huge on me. That's all I remember that one. Right. Next question, and unfortunately that was the respite from the rest of the questions. Right, Chris Bell. Do we think now we're into 2023 that Hanlon and Stevenson should be anywhere near the first team? And then this comment I wasn't quite as comfortable with. Remember they both started in 2012. I don't think any one or two individuals were responsible for what happened in 2012. But for me, they shouldn't really be first team regulars still in.
No.
Now, should they?
No. I still really have a huge soft spot for Lou Stevenson, but I don't really want to see him starting week in, week out. I did think it was the right call to play him, to be honest, on Monday, because I didn't really feel as though there was another option given what Chabraya seems to be at the minute.
But then, Greg, that probably is the issue, or Ryan, isn't it? That is the issue where we're saying, and he probably will start against Motherwell, but he shouldn't be, should he? We shouldn't be in that situation.
I think it's just a sign of where we are at the minute. We're bringing a left back in the summer, and he either already wants to leave, or he's lost his form, or his head's not in it. I know he's been through some personal things, but ultimately it leaves us in a situation where we have to keep playing these guys. I side with Liam. Obviously, I've got a soft spot for Stevenson, but I was really, really disappointed with the way he played on Monday there, especially the third goal. I mean, it looked like
Was
he had a
poor,
couple
right?
of yards on the guy, eh? Hanlon, obviously, as well, was at fault for it partially, but I mean, Stevenson has yards on the guy, and I think that highlights why probably he shouldn't be playing as often as he does
Do you think,
in big games.
do you think with Steven, Greg, you've made your thoughts on handling them for a while. Do you think with Stevenson specifically, we're starting to see against the bigger teams in the league, maybe his age just catch up with him a little bit? Like, I think he was pretty poor against Celtic as well, whereas sort of historically, not many wingers gave him a hard time, regardless of who it was. Maybe the only one for me to remember, Gary Mackay-Steven, I'd say regularly sort of gave him a hard time. But other than that, he always pretty stood up well. But I thought, like Ryan said on Monday, was quite a bit off it.
He was miles off it. He wasn't the only one, but I think, look, I'm obviously not Hannah's biggest fan, but it's not his fault. He's never been replaced. Same with Stevenson, he really should have been replaced. Like, we replaced him in the summer, but ultimately it's not really worked out. So, you know, these players have a shelf life. They shouldn't still be first team regulars. Unfortunately, that's where we are. And this isn't just on this recruitment team. There's been recruitment teams for the past 5 years that haven't replaced these two players. So
Yeah.
it's sad times when you're relying on two players that have been there for so long and are definitely past our best.
Do you think as well it's sort of tarnishing that they're players that did struggle with the fan base, you know, when they first broke through, they got a lot of criticism, and then I think over the last, let's call it Stubbs and Lennon period of time, they built up a lot of good grace again. And then the fact they're still hanging about, do you think it's sort of starting to tarnish that reputation, if you like them?
I don't think they got a hard time when they first came through. I think they were both two pretty exciting players, Stevenson especially. I think what they have, they've seen a lot of shit at the club. But look, I don't for once deny their experience, or they maybe add something to the dressing room, but as football players are done for me.
Right. Greg, I'm going to come back to you here actually, because this one is a touchy subject you mentioned earlier. Harry McCurdy, 2 games he started, Celtic Park and Tynecastle, probably 2 of the hardest places to go, especially for a forward. Resulted in the fans turning a little bit, even though McCurdy hasn't done much in those appearances. Do you think he deserves a better chance? That's from Thomas, 1875 Thomas. Do you think he deserves more of a chance?
You can't give a player 45 minutes from the start. How come in 2 games that he started? You know, it's really, really poor for Lee Johnson, if I'm honest. And you know, I think he had a chance, so he was one of the ones that was maybe looking a bit more lively. He didn't affect the game a lot, but you need to give him more than 45 minutes. He's hardly had any games. He's hardly had any minutes. Like, give the boy a chance. You know, I feel like the reason he's been turned on is probably because we've not seen a lot of him. So you just can't give players 45 minutes for the start and then hook them.
Yeah,
I think it's incredible the amount of slack we're cutting for Harry McCurdy compared to guys who've actually served the club well down the years. I think we're as a fan base, I think, are partly to blame for where some of the clubs are at the moment. I think the derision of Paul Hanlon and Lewis Stevenson, I don't think they should be out there. I don't think they should be playing, but they wouldn't be the guys that I'd be picking out as being the problem, because ultimately they are still playing, they are still turning up. I think Harry McCurdy's getting a very easy ride because he's done a couple of nice wee interviews. But what has he contributed on the pitch?
Do you think
what has he contributed? He's done nothing. He has done absolutely not a thing of note.
We talk about we spoke about earlier about Johnson being comparable to the Butcher Eater. We signed Harry McCurdy for a fee not too dissimilar from the same club that we signed James Collins from. James Collins was berated and done more, would we say?
James Collins doesn't have fucking daft haircuts and do a bow and arrow when he scores.
That's social media,
because he's not scored yet. Well, to be honest, I can't believe how easy a ride he's had since he's been here, like, based on his performances. Like, I know he's only had bits and pieces here and there, but how many touches the ball did he have at Tynecastle?
Oh, not many. He managed to shield the ball out. But right, Jaden, Patty 1875, I'll come to you here. What's the point in the recruitment team signing young players, then trying to sell them on for a bigger fee down the line when we have one of the best academies in Scotland and don't give any of them a chance?
No, it's a good point because it does have the potential to block the pathway for some of these young guys to come through, as we've seen before during the Mowbray years, bringing youth through. I think probably what a contribution to that is with the American owners, they've maybe seen a model which they would like to emulate, be it Man City, Chelsea, in terms of bringing young players in from different countries and then either loaning them out or playing them in their own team and then selling them on again for a profit. But even at these big clubs, it doesn't always work out that way. You see guys that never get an opportunity. Or
money burn as well, don't they?
Aye, or they go on loan for 4 or 5 years and they don't seem to get any fee for them. So I don't know if this is just an idea that they've come in with and think that would be something that they could profit upon for the club. I don't necessarily agree with it because it blocks the pathway to the exciting youngsters that we might have. If you look at some of the guys that are on the bench now, as opposed to some of the younger guys that could be in there gaining experience, I'm not for that. I would rather have the young guys in there, give them a pathway.
I think, for me, my personal view on it is that there was obviously a lot made towards the start of last season, I think, around how we didn't have anyone in that category of maybe 19-20 that was pushing the first team. And, you know, you had the group that were under 18s at the point, but then we had quite a big gap to the first team. And we went in and signed a load of these players in this region, you know, your Haugas, Melkersons, Lewis Miller. But then they were all supposed to be playing in these development games. And then these development games against the like English sides and stuff like that. And we've then not seen any of that, really. So ultimately,
They've not been happening. The games
like,
aren't happening.
Are we just
Also, there's none of them are pushing the first team either. Like, so the idea behind that was so they could come in and push the first team, but there's absolutely no sign of that being progression into the first team. None of them.
It feels like we're just sort of hemorrhaging money, or we have, into this project that never took off.
Yeah, as Liam says, they've not been happening. So what's happening then? We're just paying a wage for all these guys that we brought in for a development team that isn't taking place effectively.
Yeah, I know the reserve league, I think, has played a little bit, but from what I've seen, it's mainly been the 18s that have been playing, no?
One round of fixtures, Sam.
Wow. Right, next question, Zach McKenzie. It's literally directly about Lewis Stevenson and Hanlon. Do they need replaced? So we've already covered that off, Zach. Right, Dan Taylor, 2 tweets here. Should McGeady start versus Motherwell? Has to start, in my opinion, even if you only get 60 minutes out of him. Think similar to Roderick at Celtic. That's the first question of what looks like free. For me, yes. Like Liam said, it was the only bright spark, really, at Tynecastle. He got 45 minutes under his belt. Surely the next steps to start a game.
I would say so.
Lee Johnson's had opportunities to give him minutes and not, so he was the only one that really comes out of that game with any even slight bit of credit.
Liam, would you like to see McGeady start on that right side in front of Cadden at the weekend?
Maybe.
Start on the right, though.
Maybe.
Absolutely not on the right.
Did he not play on the right at Tynecastle?
No. He was definitely through the middle. Like, look, to me, he was through the middle. I don't think I've ever really seen him pop up on the right. I think he was always either centre or left.
The only bits I can remember him on the right hand side, but you might be right. I'd play him, but
I'd definitely play him.
We're pinning our hopes on a 36-year-old who played 11 games of football last season for the rest of the season, then we're in big trouble. And I said this when we signed him.
Aye. Right, next question. Also, if you're a player, how do you react to being called mediocre, a busy fool that lacks football and IQ? I appreciate Lee Johnson's comments regarding the players he has at his disposal. However, it's not the manager's job to get the best out of them when he's got... Sorry, is it not the manager's job to get the best out of them and improve the current playing squad as well? I don't know how. I don't know how, if I'm a player, how I react. You know, if even in a work environment, if my manager tells me, I don't have the IQ to do what he's asking me to do, I'm not rolling up to work the next day.
Aye, I'd be gone. Like,
I don't know about you.
I'd be waiting for it to join in training and smash him.
I'd be in there, like,
prove a point. But then again, it does come down to players' mentality as well. Do you go in the huff? Do you cower away like you have done? Or do you go and prove your point and go and prove that actually he's wrong about you?
Well,
You
can
can
I
use it either way.
maybe
For me, I think I would rather use it in a way that you go out and you prove I'm wrong, and then you maybe have a pop up or whatever, and then it's done. You move on. But then, players can go in the huff if they want, but it doesn't do anyone any favours. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that, but for me, I'd be looking to prove a point.
That's maybe what he's hoping for in terms of the reaction. Like, to be fair, as Liam said, he's probably played every card that he's got to play by now. It's
do
kind
I
of
think with the way that the club is now, the players might just go, well, fuck you. You're going to be at the door in a couple of weeks anyway.
Quite possibly, but there's a blame culture at our club at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's been a blame culture ever since Ben Kensell arrived. Ben Kensell walked in the door and he blamed Graham Maffey for the failings of the summer window at a time when he was in post. There's now a blame game happening between Lee Johnson and the other powers at the B at the club, talking about whose responsibility it is to recruit and sign players. We've got rumours of Lee Johnson walking around telling people the only player he signed was Aidan McGeady in the summer. We've got a lot of people saying things to the contrary. There's a lot of finger pointing going on. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors at the football club at the moment. There's a lack of clarity around the transfer committee. Our corporate governance is in a fucking mess because we don't have a single individual accountable for transfers. So all that creates is lots of people pointing at each other. No one's taking responsibility. So if Lee Johnson can't take responsibility, how do you expect the players to take responsibility out there on a Saturday? Because right from the top down, it's not working. It is not working. The transfer committee, I think to give us a wee bit of credit, and I'm always loath to give us any credit whatsoever on this podcast, but we did say when we sat down with them and we went through the transfer committee that to me, in my mind, did not sound like a sound way of approaching things, and I think it's been shown to be true.
Yep. Talking about taking responsibility there, Liam, obviously the last wee bit of Dan's question there was, is it not the manager's job to make the best of what he's got and improve them? Is that maybe a big part of his job that he's forgetting right now?
A good manager, a good coach makes the players that he's got better. And history proves that. You watch any manager that goes into a football club, a big club, and there's plenty of examples of it down in England at the moment, where you've got a piss for the cock, they go in and they make things happen with the players that they've got. Bad managers come in and they blame everybody else for them not being able to get
blame the players that they signed in the summer and then had a full pre-season at work with.
It's fucking simple.
Well, I mean, see to me, it seemed like, and I was quite a big critic of Maffey, but it seemed like I was comfort blank out very early on. I mean, that guy is just, I really don't have him at all. I don't. He's never really been at a big club in his life. His ambition is to be at Gillingham. Is that really the type of guy you want at a Birmingham Football Club? Is that what we want to be?
Maybe twisting words a little bit.
Have I?
Smidge.
That's what he said. He said his ambition was to be at Gillingham. League Two.
League Two is.
Well. No, I'll take his wee Palom as well because he's a lower league losers, a pair of them, to be honest. Not having the two of them.
This is the thing. The club has, in some respects, and not to get all too kind of football snobbery about it, but the club has brought in a manager who, his career highlight as a manager is winning an EFL trophy with Sunderland, a club who should never even be in the EFL trophy in the first place. He has achieved absolutely nothing in football. And we're supposed to look at him like he's some sort of messiah because he's come up from down south, and we're expected to treat him in such a way. I think there's far too many people in our football club who have got an obsession with English lower leagues, and I think that's a problem.
Do you think, like, we're getting away a little bit from the questions right now, but I'm sure it'll cover some of them. When you hire, because obviously Greg especially talks about winning, and obviously ultimately that's the aim of the game in football. But when you're bringing someone from out with that circle of sort of Scottish football, if you like, someone that maybe understands the club, or do you need them to bring that extra, and that maybe that is that proper they've won something, be that in their playing career or in their managerial career, because they probably don't really understand what they're really getting themselves into. Because Lee Johnson can sit in an interview for 8 hours, but the club are pitching what they want to pitch.
Then Lee Johnson sat down all nicey and said he'd look at the history of the club and he likes what he sees in that. But it's just lip service, isn't it? You know, he's never actually contributed anything to the football club. He's never really contributed anything to any football club he's been at, to be honest. So what we're meant to all praise him because he's come up for down south. He's been a big brave boy. He's moved up from England to come up and risk it up here.
Yeah, I mean, so like when he's been down south, has he got maybe at Bristol City, if I remember right? Maybe when he was there, they were
finished eighth
for playoffs.
Finished
Yeah,
eighth.
well done.
No, but that's
what a result.
Does he have any experience?
Hope he's got that medal hung up in his room.
No, that's what I'm saying. So when he comes into Hibs, where the expectation is to be not winning leagues, but challenging for trophies and at the upper part of the table, as a manager, and then someone who specifically doesn't even know anything about the Scottish games. Oh, sorry, played in the country for 6 months. How does he even have? Would you even say that on paper he would even have the skill set to recruit the right players, to train the right way, to prepare players the right way, to go to Motherwell and win? Anyone?
I'm less hung up on the whole would have won something. I just don't get why everyone was so starry-eyed over him when he came in. And I just think it was as simple as, I've got connections with the City group. I've done a bit of work with the City group, and everyone thought he was Pep Guardiola's best mate, and he was on the blow to him every 2 minutes. I guarantee you Pep Guardiola does not have his number saved in his phone. Because there's no way he would listen to any of the fucking nonsense that he trots out in post-match interviews. No way.
This is true.
How long had he been here? A month, and then he started moaning about the League Cup format.
League Cup format.
That's just, do you know what it is? Do you know what that is? That's loser mentality. If you're going to win games of football, you want to moan about a group stage.
Do you know, that's not really been
he is a
genuine
loser, an absolute loser. He was here. We beat Clyde. Wow. Right, and then he started moaning about the group stage. He didn't understand it. It's a pretty simple concept, to be honest.
It is a simple concept. Absolutely.
Football team plays games of football. It is not difficult. But he wanted to come out and moan about it instead of take responsibility himself. That's okay. He finished 8th in the table with Bristol City.
No, I wasn't saying that was a good. That's what I'm saying.
They also put Man United into an extra time once as well. He'll have that trophy up in his fucking house and that. Proper
what
loser.
surprises me the most about him, right? So he's managed over 500 games, right? But he's so naive tactically when it comes to certain things. He totally changed from his philosophy, right? And he's went to this five at the back, and he's given up possession in dangerous areas of the pitch. He's trying to pack the midfield at times, yet the opposition still has all the ball. Like, I just didn't understand where he comes from with half the stuff.
So what he is good at though, Ryan?
Tell me.
Reading the GPS.
Right.
Listens to what the GPS tells them.
Let's take a little bit of a break here because we're quite a bit in and we're not even close to through these questions. That's why I wanted to get into these straight away.
This is therapy.
Logan Simpson, someone close to all of us.
Some boy.
What former manager?
Hungry laddie, that one.
What former manager do you think would get the best out of these players in brackets, if any?
Former manager.
I mean, which one do you think would get the best of them? For me, it's pretty straightforward. Tony Mowbray, best manager in my lifetime. So
Lennon was a total motivator when it came to players. He knew how to get the best out of every individual. I think if you take a squad of underperforming players, Lennon would be the one that could kind of turn that around.
Mate,
I thought Mowbray was fantastic though.
Oh, Lennon! Fucking Neil Lennon with this mob. Mate, I'd go to the bookies to get a 10 on us if Lennon took over this mob to go down, because there's no way Lennon would. Nah.
I'd book a week off work and just sit in the Eastmains car park and just watch it all unfold.
I think Neil Lennon.
I
think Lennon would potentially come in and it would have that good impact that I think Neil Lennon can have. But do you know? I think
for 3 games.
I think the Neil Lennon impact, it starts to fucking drag you. You know, it very quickly becomes, oh, fuck off. But I think with this group of players, 3 games would probably
Why?
3
Because
wins
they're all losers.
get us away from relegation.
They're fucking taking it for the garden gnome, like, so.
There's only so many times you can throw a chair at someone's head, allegedly, and get Gary Parker to come over and tell them it's okay and give them a wee pat in the back before it stops working. And I genuinely give him about 3 games.
Right.
All right then, Bobby Williamson.
Aye, do you know what? Fuck it. Jim Duffy.
Right, next question. Dylan Morris. Does Ron Gordon ultimately admit he's made an arse of it? Change that, in brackets, reasonably successful model at Hibs, let go of Dempster and Maffey, overseen 3 failed managers so far, appointed his son to head of recruitment and a playing squad at a butcher level and no sign of Europe or a trophy?
Can I make just one really quick point on Leanne Dempster and I'll shut up? People need to stop hailing Leanne Dempster as the messiah of Hibernian Football Club. She did a decent job. She did some good things in her time at the club, but she is in no way a messiah. The commercial revenue and a lot of things that went on off the pitch during Leanne Dempster's time at Hibs are forgotten about and are swept under the carpet because of the 2016 Cup win. I don't want to talk down on her because I think she did a decent job, but there's no way we should be even considering bringing her back as CEO because of some of the shortcomings during her tenure.
That's what I find it interesting because Queen's Park are doing pretty well in the league. However, off the field, they're an absolute shambles still. So, like, and then I look at Motherwell. They finished second, I think, when Leanne Dempster was there. And it's but again, off the field, I believe they didn't have the problems to seek financially.
We had companies getting free advertising from us for a period of time during her time as CEO. We had all sorts of other off-field issues that I won't go into. But Leanne Dempster is not the answer.
As well, when we talk about football structures, as a lot of people are here, Dempster was CEO.
Aye.
She wasn't. Who was it fell under? George Craig and Maffey. Yeah. They were the football people, ultimately. Aye. You know, like, Dempster was Ben Kensel.
Aye.
And for all we want to say about Ben Kensel, probably, and the things that maybe a CEO should be interested in, obviously the football side of it, but if you've got the right people underneath them, their main focus should be ultimately the business, turning profit. Which
right people underneath who? Ben Kensel?
Well, there should be, is what I'm saying.
But he's not the right guy anyway. So everything below him then turns to shit as well.
Right.
He's not the right guy.
I know that. I'm just saying, if you were to look at
just to make it clear, he is in his
CEO.
depth at this football club. Glad we cleared that one up.
Right.
Loser.
This is long, I'm going to say. Right. Famous Edinburgh High B. For the club to kick on, we need Ron Gordon to come to his senses. He's listening to the wrong people, and the worrying part is that too many people at the club are managing to convince him that they are up to doing a job they clearly aren't. I think that's exactly what Greg just referenced there. He's not going to get rid of his son, but Kensal, Johnson and Charlton all need gone if we want the club to kick on, because Ron isn't confined to one area, it spreads. A rot isn't confined to LBB. A manager who takes a job knowing they won't have final say on transfers should not be wanted by any supporter. There's nothing wrong with having a team committee to help. It's what I did before I retired, but I never worked with a manager who didn't want the final say. What fans don't realise is that it would take a vast amount of money to challenge. Spent the right way, £2 million would see us move ahead of Hearts and Aberdeen, but it would need to be done under a new structure with the right people making the decisions. Getting the right players now would just ruin the good players. As it stands, I wouldn't want any new players coming in until changes are made.
2 points. We have business people at the football club making football decisions.
Yep.
And can we also just get this clear that Lee Johnson has a say in the recruitment, because this is really, really starting to piss me off that people don't understand how it works. Ian Gordon takes post-it notes to Lee Johnson with names on it, and he says yes or no. It's not complicated.
I think we say this every week. Lee Johnson.
I know. Can we
That's
just
what you'll
start
say.
calling our podcast? Can we rename our podcast to Lee Johnson Signs Players Podcast? Because that's what he does.
And no very good ones.
I do think
He says yes or no, and that is it, right? And then someone else, probably Ben Kensel, out his depth, goes away and has negotiations with people. But Lee Johnson says yes or no. Please understand how it works.
I do think the other points in there are pretty valid, and the last point, Liam, getting the right players in now would just ruin good players as it stands. I wouldn't want any new players coming in until changes are made. The point specifically about the recruiting of them, I believe you're probably of similar mindset to that. Like, do we even have any trust?
I have a huge amount. This was a huge amount of validity. Sorry, I didn't catch that person's name that sent in that question. There's a huge amount of validity of what was said. Like, there's absolute validity. I don't think the conditions are right, and to be honest, I don't trust us to go and sign players. So right now, I do not. People are going, "Oh, I'm anxious because we've not signed anyone yet in the window." What? Like, based on what track record do you think we're going to bring players and they're going to help us right now?
I think
they're expecting a bus load for Edinburgh Airport like in 2 minutes past midnight on January 1st.
I sent that message obviously in the group chat, being like, you know, if we get, and I do stand by it. Come full time on Sunday, we're a quarter of the way through the window, and we won't have, as it stands, and I can't imagine much will get done unless potentially Porteous moves on before Sunday. No players have moved on who he has made it clear he wants to ship players on, and no players have come in. And again, how much you can dictate off in media links and stuff like that, but there's not even a sniff. Everything's talking about players going out, players aren't good enough. We're a quarter of the way through the window. That would worry me, regardless of whether we think the structure is right or not. Albeit I don't think right now it's a thing that we could face. We are in the middle of a league season. We are a very decisive point of the season. The season could go pretty much one of two ways, well, one of three ways. You can meander in the middle of the table the rest of the year, you could get dragged into relegation scrap, or you could actually get your shit together and try and challenge for Europe. You know, that's the way the table's sitting. It would worry me if we get even to the middle of January and these players aren't moved on. Any of them. Like, come on. So whilst I agree with the recruiting of them, I don't know if that's... I agree, I don't think we're in the best place to be bringing players in right now, but I'm worried. If I'm honest, I thought something would have happened by now. I really did.
What, you want Scott Burns to just pick names out of a hat and say?
No, I don't mean. No, I mean factual things. Like, I thought we would have had. I thought Dimitri Mitchell would have been away. I thought a couple of loans would have been.
You got to find someone to take these players. You got to remember that.
Fucking release it. End his contract. He's a contract.
18 months left. Oh, it's 6 months.
Like I think you're still just hemorrhaging money though,
mate. Nobody's paying a fee for fucking Dimitri Mitchell. It's not happening.
I don't really want a fee. Just fucking take him. I don't want to have to pay him off. Just take him. I'll drive him. Right. See, for the full month of January, I'll just take them anywhere they want to
go. You drive Mojang back to Gambia. That'll be some kind of journey.
It's just like, you'd like to think that in the loans of Bojang, Schofield, Fish, there was break clauses in them. That surely would they come
to play Fish on Monday? He's not going to release him. He just decided to play him. He's finally had a kick in the ball. He's not going to release him. Not that great show on Monday.
It's funny that we signed Ryan Schofield there. Like the most pointless transfer. How?
No, but you've always got like an under-18s keeper in that though. Like that Tom Carter was around the club. Like, what's the chances that you're actually going to have to
I'll tell you, Tom Carter was sent back for Trinidad, so didn't even mention him.
I'm sure he can sit on the bench though. That's my point.
No,
like, if Schofield can sit on the bench.
No, he can't.
So the answer is yes then, Greg. We should
No, but you've got why not just put Money Johnson on the bench, man?
Because he's out on loan.
Was he not on loan at that
point?
Well,
I'd rather have an injured Kevin Dabrowski than Ryan Schofield picking up a wage for Dan. Right.
Right. The next question: try buying players that are going to be nailed on starters, Jamie. That's a really tough statement, and yes, please.
Did we not say that in the summer?
Think so, mate.
Did we not say that in
Mark
January?
O'Hara, Liam Lindsay, that'll do. Good start. Good start, Hibs.
Stop fucking talking about Mark O'Hara. You've not even
I
got
know,
close to
man.
enough.
I hate goal scoring midfielders as well, Ewan.
Goals. I've got Josh Campbell for that. Right, David. Hibs' strategy for success appears to be signing players with the hope of developing them and selling them on. Would a better strategy be to use success on the pitch to drive revenue? This would try to be achieved through a smaller squad of better quality players. Discuss. I mean, aye.
Small squad, better players,
Aye.
results on pitch. Yes.
Did Lee Johnson not come out and say he wanted quality, not quantity? But
I think that was Jack.
Players in the summer.
I think Jack Ross coined that phrase, and then what he got given was small quantity and shite quality.
Can you ever remember a manager in Hibs history that's been backed as much as Lee Johnson?
Nah, not even close, man. Not even close.
So he's actually doing worse with more than
Maybe
many managers who've done better with less.
That proves that you can't get the best
money.
out
He
of
might
players.
start performing.
I know, and this is the thing as well. Like we're hammering him, the recruitment team, the signings. But like you said, Liam, you've signed David Marshall. You know, you've got there is still players, and yeah, maybe you've been unlucky with an injury to Aidan McGeady, but I think we said at the time. I think I said in the summer I wouldn't go with him because he'll probably get injured. And you mentioned it in the summer you can't hang your hat on 36-year-olds. But I still think that Lee Johnson should be getting more out of this. I still think Lee Johnson should be getting more out of this squad than what he is getting right now. And it goes back to the question we got earlier. Like, so, God.
Also should be getting more out of it. He's getting nothing out of it at the moment.
Any manager worth their salt is going to get the best out of any players that's put in front of them. You see examples of it happening all across Europe, man.
Yeah.
Look at Eddie Howe at Newcastle, man. He's not signed superstars. He's signed proven players in that league, and he's got the best.
He's an absolute wonder kid for Australia, though. That'll be in the first team next year after a spell at Tynecastle.
By the way, best example in our games, I hate to bring his name up, David Martindale.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Makes players better.
They build a solid team.
And even
with next to no money.
And even shiter examples, Callum Davidson. He went from battling relegation last year, spent next to no money in the summer on ultimately a heap of shite, and he's got them sitting in 5th place in the league, I think.
Even better example than that.
In the last few years,
they took Arbroath from League 2 all the way to the playoffs for the Premier League with a part-time squad in 3 years.
How's Dick Campbell doing this year? Good.
I was going to say, mate, about 13 months ago.
That's not a good example.
Was it 13, 14 months ago we were getting fucking asked questions whether we should be looking at higher Dick Campbell.
Back it in, Larry Linfield. Get a rest.
Okay, I'm just trying to be a bit fucking positive.
No, but it's a fucking Disney story.
Fucking hell.
This isn't the Mighty Ducks, mate. He's had one good season, and look at him now, because he's like, please.
Nah. Come on. Listen, I'm just saying, like, he's had a part-time squad for fucking 3 years and we're back-to-back.
That's plenty, Ryan. That'll do. Right. EMT 1. A sustainable approach to recruitment, pleased with priorities on the first team, ready recruits in key areas unfilled for a number of windows. How can that be possible? 2. Getting a tune out of the club and those at the club in the meantime. 3. Theme tune for managers. This is the one we're focusing on here because the first 2 we've already dealt with. Theme tune for managers. Lee Johnson. I didn't start the fire.
Ryan didn't.
That's Ben Kenson, surely.
Ryan start the fire. I don't know what Lee Johnson's theme tune should be. Short People by Randy Newman. Do you know that
Benny Hill or something?
Shaggy, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Oh dear. Right, Tony. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there, but you're fucker. There's loads.
See on Twitter, I'm just going to mute the word recruitment now.
I'm trying to look at ones. If we don't need your questions, because I think we've already covered. This is an interesting one, actually. It is on recruitment. Marty, would changing where our scouts go help in bringing in better players? And my first thought on this is no, because Aberdeen signed Duke for the exact same club that we signed Jair Tavares. I don't know if we're looking in the wrong places or if we've just got the wrong people looking.
I don't know if our scouts are actually going to these places physically either. I very much doubt. I think we're watching things on Scout and then making a decision on them. I think it'd be quite rare that we'd go to watch games.
And
It'd be hard to watch Jair Tavares because I think most of the games he played for Benfica B were behind closed doors. And I don't think Famila Sow under 23s or whether Mamadou Bojang was at last season will have a huge intake of scouts at their games.
Yeah.
So maybe it would. Maybe it would if we scouted in different places. We'd open up some new markets. But you made a good point there, Ewan. I mean, Duke looks to me to be a very decent player.
diving cheating bastard, but good player.
There's been some really good players signed from other Norwegian clubs that have gone to places as well.
Yeah.
You've got Runar Hauga and the mythical Melkerson.
Oh,
So do you know what's mad? I actually seen a tweet for that Duncan Mackay after the game at the weekend who said we signed Melkerson for more money than Hearts signed Shankland for. And you look at the two and you compare them.
well, mate. And that, me and Ryan said the same thing actually. Going on the way home from the game on Monday, like the money's clearly there. You know, we're offering Porteous however
It's
much.
spent the wrong places, you know.
Yeah.
I just
And
feel
that's
like
the issue.
I think I've seen.
I don't know if we're getting desperate just chucking money at everything, but the money needs to be spent a lot better than what it
Mate,
is.
we spent 6 figures on a fucking teenage, like a 16-year-old, didn't we? Like, you know what I mean?
I know, man. That's sickening to hear that though, because think of what that could have done at the first team, which is what we need at the minute. We didn't need a 16-year-old now. We've plenty of 16-year-olds there that could be
have
as
got
good.
Liam Lindsay. It's really heartbreaking.
Didn't he cry, mate? Didn't he cry?
Shut
Hey,
up, Larry.
Cammy
Yeah.
Garland. Cammy Garland, if we don't pick up points at Fir Park, does Johnson even get the rest of the transfer window? In my opinion, if we don't see a positive reaction after publicly slating the players, then does he really have any cards left to play? As we've already said, Cammy, no, he doesn't. I think this is his final card. That was his ace in the pack.
Well, what he might do is he might just get on the bus himself, and that can
Wait
go
on
back,
them.
and then all the players are stuck there and need to work
I
it out
am.
and get home.
I
That could be
think-
his next move.
just to
Would
actually
he be
answer
sacked?
the
He would have been
question.
sacked by now.
That's what I was going to say. I think he gets the rest of the window regardless. He's not going anywhere.
Why?
Because it would have been done by now, I think.
Greg,
Why
if
are you only giving him a window? No, but genuine question. If you are not sure, then why would you only give him to the end of the window when he is in charge of also signing players? It's clearly not working. He clearly can't pick a player out for a lineup.
I never
And we
said.
want to give him the rest of a window.
I never said
He
it's
should
what I would
not
do.
be anywhere near this football club now. He should be gone.
I agree.
You don't. His behaviour, in even the last week,
I agree.
is unacceptable.
Mate, I agree. I
So,
was fully
for me,
I was fully
he-
expecting to wake up on Tuesday and be sacked. But
he does not get a result of the weekend. He is finished. He does not get the Hearts game because the Hibs will look at that and say we cannot afford to go into that game with him again based on what happened the last time and the possible meltdown that will cause.
do you think that though? Do you think the club would? Do you think a defeat at Motherwell, on the run that we're already on, the game that we just played, the comments that we've heard, do you genuinely believe that that would then just be a trigger point to go, we'll get rid of him now? That's what I
Well,
think.
what are
he's
you
here.
going to give him the Hearts game?
Mate, no, I think he's here unless we are staring relegation in the face. And I'm talking, no, I know, but I'm talking like you're sitting second bottom in the league, like maybe starting to get caught adrift. I think he's here. I think unless we are serious relegation candidates, he gets the season, like genuinely. Because why? Otherwise, why would they not have done it by now?
Don't know why the Hibs do a lot of things. Why the Hibs sign absolute jokers? Like you could say that about anyone at the football club. For me, he's lucky to be here,
I agree.
but I don't think he gets much
Yeah, he's
longer.
very
I
lucky.
don't- I
He's
do
very
you know
lucky.
what? I just
Where's Emlyn?
carry.
Do you mind you and me got asked before the Rangers game how many points we thought he needed to save his job? And me and you both answered the same. We both said 3 points for those 4 games. So we got those 3 points. And those 3 points came against Livingston. I'm not saying that's right, but I do think those 3 points he got against Livingston probably buy him the rest of this month.
That's what
And I think it's wrong, but I think it buys him the rest of the month.
I agree. Right, we're going to try and wrap these up. There's a few questions that came in early that unfortunately have slid down, and I want to definitely go through them. Gav from Hibs Talk. Out of the 20 signings in 2022 by the recruitment team overseen by Ian Gordon, who has been a good signing, I'd say Marshall.
Lee Johnson signs players.
To be fair. Anyway, 2022, the over 20 signings, Gav's given good signing to Marshall, and then a few you could potentially argue that have been fine. He cites Ellie Yuan as that. Any other players that you're given sort of good to that have signed in the year of 2022? Rocky
pass marks. I would have said Chabraya pass marks until recently, but I'm struggling even there. I'm struggling to defend that one.
I feel like we're at a stage with Chabraya now where we've had more bad games than good games.
And he's not even playing. And we're playing Lewis Stevenson ahead of him. You could maybe make an argument for Kenna, but again, Lee Johnson doesn't fancy him despite having signed him in the summer.
What that's a real damning, like we say, not all of them are obviously, like we're talking about January last year as well, which was Sean Maloney, but I do think it's mental. If you were to write me 10 players that you think should be away in January, at least 50% of them would have been signed by Lee Johnson.
Only 10?
No, if I was just to say write 10, I bet at least half of them would be players that have been signed in the summer.
Which means they've only been here for 6 months. That says a lot, if they're not good enough.
Aye. But and the fact that we're struggling with this question, I think, is exactly like I've asked it. Marshall, Rocky.
Then Rocky.
Harry Clark. Could Harry Clark be seen as a success?
No.
Like 5 games.
Can we stop with this Harry Clark stuff?
I know we had to.
How long was he injured for?
No, I agree. We did.
He added nothing. He added very little to the football
I'm just
club.
Curious if that was one that could have been seen as.
No.
I don't see success if you were injured for like 75% of the time you were here.
Correct.
I think who else?
Thanks, Ryan.
Who else did we bring in January last year? Melkerson. Nah.
Jasper.
Henderson. Nah.
He's been so poor recently. His body language is absolutely stinking.
No, it's two. It's two out of 20 signings in 2022.
Martin Boyle would be included.
Boyle, sorry. Yeah, no, you're not absolutely. That's fair.
Did Boyle even leave?
Right. Kirby Nisbet, what decision has Ellie Yuan ever made that is a
Kukurevich as well. Sorry.
We're almost
right. Can we, even if we do have more, can we just stop there? I don't want to give him too much.
So we're at about a 20% success rate when I think Liam has sort of coined this when we talk about recruitment, that if you can get to about 50% success rate, you're going to be there or thereabouts, and Hibs are falling way under that.
But Lee Johnson must have phoned Pep about Kukurevich, because he's
City Group.
Shut up, mate. We've been recording for an hour. And we're skipping questions, and there's still a couple of things I think we want to look at.
This is making me feel better. Don't stop.
Fuck the Motherwell preview. Let's get the questions out.
We've actually got a no bad record at Motherwell, so we don't even need to talk about that.
Right.
Actually, will get his first league goal.
You've mentioned it now. Gives a quick score prediction for Motherwell. Just pop it in the middle.
I actually don't care. I'm actually getting my game kicks off earlier on Sunday, so that I might actually get time to catch the Hibs game, because ultimately, I don't want to be watching that.
Greg, that's there's no numbers in that score prediction.
I don't know, that's some score prediction, by the way.
I'll give you 4-0 Motherwell. There you go. I can start you predict that.
Liam?
No. Two bad teams.
Ryan?
Liam stole my scoreline there, so 1-0.
1-0 Motherwell. Right. What decision has Ellie Yuan ever made that is a worse decision than Ellie Yuan's decision not to shoot on Monday?
Decision to come to Hibs.
Decision to post his Instagram highlight after the Celtic game.
His decision to celebrate in Park Key.
His decision to hit it right at the keeper at Ibrox 1-on-1.
See when you're talking things
that get dug up for it. I made a point about that the other week, and I got fucking shot down for it.
It's
dreadful.
See, while we're on the point of things that are wrong with the culture at our club, that is a major issue.
Why someone know that? Like, just tell that to stop.
Stop posting
Have a
fucking
word.
reels after we get beat.
Look, I believe that the social media side of things is obviously something they look into a lot at the club. Tell him to
Really?
stop. Like, I don't know if you can, Liam. You're the HR guy. I don't know if you can tell an employee. To
Nah,
stop
you can't
stuff
tell
like that,
people
but
what to do with their social accounts, but someone could have a quiet word in his ear and say, Ellie,
The
we will
captain
be
of the team.
4-0 by Celtic. Maybe no post a reel
See
you did a
before
fucking
Sunday.
step over.
See before Sunday, what he got a couple of nutmegs in on Monday, didn't he? So they'll probably make the cut.
Oh no.
That edit's coming our way.
He'll probably put his run through on goal before he got tackled because he was taking 10 weeks
What
to
was that
take
all
the
about,
fucking
man?
shot.
Mate, just get a shot away. I seen Hearts fans saying it was good defending. I suppose it is to get back, but just fucking shoot, mate.
Didn't give him a chance though. They didn't give the defender a chance.
To be fair, it is good defending, but as Ryan says, you should be giving him a chance to get back and get it.
And was it Greg? Did you say if he had just kept on his left peg, he would have been away?
Well, he started moving to the right, and I thought he was no fancy in this at all. You know, as soon as he moved to the right, he wasn't having it. So, yeah,
Right.
I really don't know what was going on in his head, but fair play, like he's really made an arse of it.
Right, this
It's
is going to be an
impressive how much
interesting
of an
one.
arse he made of it.
This is going to be an interesting question. It's probably going to go against sort of what we've said so far. Kevin Wilson, with all the rumoured structural changes taking place, is this actually a good time to change manager? Lee Johnson is on the thinnest tightrope, but some stability is needed. Also witnessing you in spectacular ran at halftime was the only thing that raised a smile on Monday. Certainly didn't raise a fucking smile on me, but aye. Anyone that was in earshot there, I think Ryan enjoyed it and all. But aye, first part of that question, is now the right time to change manager?
6 points out of 36. The answer is yes, it is the right time to change manager.
I would agree, because see if you're getting a new structure in, get rid of him and get the new let the new put someone that you trust in charge, right? That isn't David Gray.
Need a full reset.
You know what?
Caretaker.
Get it to someone, but no, just
When are we playing St Mirren away?
and then get a director of football in, or whatever the structure changes that are being rumoured is coming in. I think we're all in agreement that you need someone that sits between the board and the manager, and let them fucking hire the manager. Let them hire someone that let them sort of put in place what they think should work. You know, they need to be interviewed first, as far as I'm concerned. They need to propose to the board how they see the football side of the club working, and then they hire someone that fits into that. So, why no get rid of him now? Because realistically, is he going to fit in under someone like that? That is apparently.
Yeah, because he's pretty small, so he can fit the tight spaces no matter where he is.
Get Mike Bassett in, caretaker.
4-4-2.
Mike Bassett style manager in 4-4-2, lump it long, and then just make, I don't know, take our time to get the right directed football. But from the stuff that's been leaked over the last week or so, I believe are quite close. Why should we wait to change the manager? How many, like, genuinely, 6 points from 33, how many games do you give it for that to get worse?
Negative 2.
Like, are we talking about, 6 points from 51?
I feel like that should be the limit. What, 33? Because that's everyone.
The limit.
So around the fixtures.
No, but that's what I mean. Like that should be the limit. You know what I mean? That's
no.
Like,
we shouldn't even get that.
Judge me after, was it 10 to 15 games, he said?
Like I said, 10 to 12 games, and we won our 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And then we've won 2 thirds.
So we judged him when he was winning. Is that what you wanted?
He fucking smashed that, eh? Fucking Mystic Meg.
That's his KPIs, mate, for the year.
The other thing is, obviously, we didn't know the dynamic in the dressing room just now, but if he's lost the dressing room, his days are going to be numbered.
Yeah.
Ewan's off skate at the minute.
I don't know what lost the dressing room means, mate.
If players didn't want to play for the manager, do you know what I mean? If you didn't have confidence in the guy that you're playing for, you didn't want to. Greg, you
see, for me, I get what you're saying, but then you almost
it's their job, though, isn't it? But
your
player power
it is, but you almost ignore it and just think, well, maybe I'll go and play for the fans that pay their money every week. Or,
You should.
I'll maybe
You should.
I'll maybe go and play for my teammates who are playing. I just think that the managers know the be all and end all. You can play for the fans, your teammates, even your own personal pride. If you might think you're a dick, but just go out there and put a performance in. It's not difficult. It's your job.
It's not happening now, though, is it? Do you know what I mean? So
go and put a performance out and show that you care. Be aggressive. Do the right things in the game. But
no, you're right, 100%.
Ultimately, you still go to training. You still listen to the manager. So really, losing the dressing room doesn't really mean an awful lot.
No, it does not. Right, next question. Junior Scott. 4 quality signings to change the team in January. Who would you go for? Junior, go and listen to our transfer prediction. No, but positions. Give me 4 positions, features that you feel like that's exactly what we need. You don't need to give me names, but what do we need in January?
4 each.
Well, all your opinions. For me, if I could only get 4. All right, well.
Just look at him as I can go then.
A centre back, a 6.
2.
Right winger, and a centre forward.
Mine's is left back, centre back, central midfielder, and right back.
A new defence. What do you want for Christmas? A new defence.
Genuinely, mate, I want
that last Christmas.
Mate, genuinely, like that's that. I think I said it to you guys earlier. I want. For me, if we could get a right back, Rocky, a new centre half, a new left back, McGeady, McGuinness, a new centre midfielder, Cadden, Nisbet, Kukurevich, we're good.
And a new head coach.
Aye. But
next year, I'm going to just hand deliver my letter to Santa because I've asked for that the last 3 years and he's not giving me it. So
Greg, you said 2 centre backs.
Must still be getting lost in the post. 2 centre halves, yeah.
What else?
Mark O'Hara. Nah, to be honest, what you need is a proper midfield player, sort of like Jake Doyle Hayes, proper midfield player, would improve that squad, if I'm honest. Just starting 11. And someone to even replace Boyle for 6 months, man, because we really, really miss him. We really miss him.
Sylvester Jasper, baby.
Well, listen, let's get the band back together for Motherwell. Jasper and Melkerson.
Ryan, give us 4 positions quickly there, or whatever.
I think the spine needs to be improved in the middle. It's heartless in there, so probably 2 centre backs, centre midfielder, and a centre forward, right through the middle.
Do we need a centre forward if we can get Nisbet and Kukurevich fit?
Kukurevich on loan, though. I'm thinking kind of
more long term.
Right,
Steve Conde, simple question, and I want 1-word answers for the pair of these here. Simple question: would sacking Lee Johnson make the situation better or worse?
Better. Even if we lost games, we'd have to listen to his shite after it.
Better for me and all. And I nearly said full house, then I realised that was 2 words, no 1. So, right, Mason Forrest, can you name 5 players who would suit Lee Johnson's side and 5 players who need to go? And a little side question, don't know if it was him or not, but the guy Harry got kicked out the Roseburn at the weekend or on Monday. No, Harry didn't get kicked out the Roseburn. What you might have seen was Harry speaking at the bouncer because they weren't going to let his dad in because he said it was full. And Harry went, mate, we've got a spare chair sitting empty there waiting on him. It's no full. And then they walked in.
Class.
I'll tell you somebody who didn't get in the Roseburn. Wee Shagger, who'll be listening to this, sat outside for 2 hours with 4 cans of Strongbow. What a boy! Logan Simpson, love you, brother.
Do you know, I don't think we can answer the can you name 5 players because what is Lee Johnson's side?
If the wee fella wants to pull up his pedestal and tell me what his style is, and I'll listen to him, but right now, I can't tell you what his style is.
Could we assume
Tinker
4-3-3?
Tinkerbell.
Yeah, come on now, come on. 4-3-3 probably, right? Pace on the
Went
wing.
away from that though, innit?
But sorry, Mason, I can't answer that. 5 players that would suit his style. Just pick them. Boyle,
Marshall,
McGuinness.
Five players that are available for the City group with his great connections at the City group.
5
We'll
players.
take De Bruyne.
5 players that
We'll have
don't.
him.
5 players that don't suit his style. According to Lee
Right,
Johnson, about 20 members of the squad. Right, where are we? Tony Swanson, what is the best formation for the current squad? Liam, don't panic too much. We won't go into that too much detail. I know that bothers you.
I've really been digged out for being angry and saying I didn't like all this football manager formation chat. I just think there's too much obsession with it, that's all. I do get the importance of formations, but I think it's becomes a talking point that just gets talked about too much. I personally don't think we get results with 3-5-2 or a back system.
I agree. Well,
I don't think it works.
With any, we've seen that. We've seen it over this period of time. To me, we need to start with 2 up front, but do we have the midfield that can support that? 3-5-2, we don't have wing backs good enough for that. 4-4-2, we don't have capable wide men. Recruitment built a squad, not a team.
26-man squad.
And do you know that's the thing as well? Because if you went right, let's go 4-4-2, you'd be fucking shit scared about the 2 in the middle of the park, wouldn't you?
The only thing a 26-man squad's good for us is getting a good game of 11s going in training every day. With 2 subs on either side.
Who's on the bench?
If I'm the personnel just now, you need to get 2 strikers on the park.
You'd have to just pick names out of a hat, to be honest, because even in training, they don't deserve to be playing.
When you say you need 2 strikers on the pitch, like 4-4-2 is the only viable option, man, because 3 at the back is scary at times. Like,
Did Tinkerbell have magic dust that she could sprinkle on things?
A little bit of salt-based action. Have we spoken about him at the World Cup final, by the way? Again, that's a talk.
Let's not talk about it.
Loser.
He'll turn up to Roy Keane's Hibernian managerial appointment and just cuddling him. Can't wait for
it. Right, I think we've covered everyone's. One last question. John McIntosh, what is for dinner?
No. We're not answering. No.
Elaborate.
He doesn't exclusively ask us, so until he does, then we'll answer this question.
Maybe he's just an aspiring chef.
Well,
or he does his food shop on a Tuesday and needs some inspiration.
Well, this is Thursday.
I was going to say.
So.
Just answer the question. Oh, actually, speaking of dinners, Elaine has wrote in while we were recording. What are the things LG needs to get to do to get the fans back on side again, or is it too late and you'll never win the majority of the fan base back?
Greg, this is your mum, so I'll take this. I'll take this one because this is your mum. Win games. Elaine, sorry.
Now, Greg, you give your polite answer back to your mother.
To get me back on side if he resigned, that would be good. I'd be right back on side with him then.
Genuinely, right? If we go and win our next 3 games.
No. I'm done with him. I've heard more than enough out of him. To understand that he's not the man for this football club. He's overshot the runway for me. Like, long gone.
Nice depression.
Unless he signs Mark O'Hara, Liam Lindsay, Michael Duffy, and Aaron Connolly, and then we'll talk. But until that point,
right, and realistically, as we talk about the majority of the fan base, like Liam says, they win games. What sort of run would we be talking that Lee Johnson needs to go back on side, or where he would even get some race? You know, like even just like a little bit of.
I think before the conversation even starts, the next two are musts, and then maybe the fans will start to consider what comes after that in terms of him winning some grace back. It probably need to be a 5 or 6 game winning streak, given how poor we've been over the last 12, 13 games. It's going to take a lot. And the majority, there's going to be a lot of fans that will never be won over. Never. Like, there's Greg. He's finished. He's not the only one that's saying that. Do you know what I mean? It's going to take a lot.
I still think it's quite 50-50 though.
So I think
Probably
it's
is.
about 50.
Probably is.
I think it's
But
about 50.
I think that if you read the room, it probably is about 50-50. I just feel the way he talks and the way he acts. And he's not the manager for me. Like,
There's
at
other
all.
scapegoats which are deflecting from him getting all the
Ian
all
Gordon
flack.
is a scapegoat ultimately. All he does is take post-it notes, to be honest. But he's a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to accept that Lee Johnson signs players.
I think that is all the questions. And again, apologies if we didn't cover them. We were going to go in and talk about how, what needs to happen at Hibs to fix it. But I think we're all in agreement that, well, us four are in agreement we would like to see a new man in charge of the team. And ultimately, everyone that falls in between him and Ron Gordon probably needs to be, I was going to say shuffled, but needs to be drastic changes. Would you agree?
huge changes.
Yeah.
Huge.
Liam, what is the
Reset.
first priority for you? If you let's say in January, I know it's not transfer window related, but would you rather see Lee Johnson move on or like a director of football come in? If you could only have the one.
We only have one. That's really tough. I'd probably go for a director of football.
Ryan?
Because I think we need to start having someone accountable for
Yeah, I agree.
decisions we make in the transfer market.
I think that needs to
Aye,
happen
fine.
sooner rather than later. And I think Harry's obviously not with us tonight, but I think he tweeted something today or something like, imagine if football teams prepared for windows when transfer windows weren't open or something. But the
Yeah.
quicker you get a director of football in, you won't necessarily see the benefit of it in January, but you should expect to be a lot better set for going into the summer and ultimately next season. And we shouldn't be writing off this season. We are only 20 games in, but from that side of things, for me, that's the priority. What about yourself, Ryan, Greg?
I see it as a bigger priority. It's a necessity now in modern day football that you have somebody that's linked between the manager and the board for various different reasons that have become apparent, and the kind of ownership under the Gordons. It's pretty obvious that it's missing. So I think it's a pretty big priority for us.
Greg?
Would agree. If we get a director of football in the same day that Ben Kaiser leaves, that'd be good.
Right. Let's wrap this up there. I think we've done more than enough. We've probably depressed more than enough people on their Friday afternoon at work or their Saturday morning dog walk or their Sunday drive to Motherwell. I'll probably listen to it back at some point, probably on the way to Motherwell. Ryan,
Well, folk that listen to the way to Motherwell, by the way, they'll just turn around and go back.
Well, there's no pay at the gate, actually, because then they genuinely might. Right, lads, it's been a pleasure as always, as we all like to say, making memories with the people that we care about, and that's what it's all about.
You have to get that dig in there, didn't you? You're the most negative fan I've ever met. Right, there we go. If you know, you know.
Right, lads, it's been good. I think we've got a lot off our chest there, and we'll be back probably in our usual spot on Monday night next week. Cheers.
See.
Like,